So it finally happened. The Switch 2 reveal is here, and it looks really good. And thank God I got my leak analysis out last week. It was one of those videos that I wrote like a month ago and didn't get to edit until recently because of how often we've been sick, and I was so worried that the Switch was just going to be revealed and render that video obsolete. But now we can look back on it fondly and realize that it was probably mostly right, as were most of the leaks that we saw. Really, the main difference is that the C button doesn't actually have a C on it. It might be the same button, but that C was likely for labeling purposes. But look, I could stand here and just talk about everything we see about the Switch console in this teaser, but frankly, I don't want to. I didn't even script out this video. I'm trying something new where I only wrote out notes instead of a full script. Regardless, there's not much to talk about. We just got the physical look of the Switch 2, and most of it we kind of already knew from leaks. But you know what we can talk about? Mario Kart 9 news. Because holy hell, we got like 30 seconds of the new Mario Kart that's gonna come out on the Switch 2, and it looks good. Look, I am your resident kart racing expert. Don't listen to Arlo or Shay Frillis, listen to me. I mean, realistically, I'm going to watch their videos once I'm done making this one. I don't want their thoughts to influence my thoughts, but I'm really interested on what their thoughts are. Regardless, when I saw gameplay of Mario Kart on the Switch 2 teaser, I was so excited, and I do want to say that I called it. The day before the teaser came out, I actually posted this to Blue Sky, and yes, while the third-party thing was wrong, I got Mario Kart spot on. Frankly, not a hard thing to predict, very likely, but still, I'm happy about it. So what did we see about this new Mario Kart? Admittedly, not a huge amount. But I am going to do the theorist tradition of making a mountain out of a molehill. We're going to talk about design as we go, so immediately we should go over the roster we've seen so far, because we actually see 24 racers in this little teaser. Granted, a good like 3 to 4 of them are 10 pixels in the background, but we can make educated guesses based on characters that are likely to be. Going from most visible to least visible, we have Mario, Luigi, Bowser, Toad, Peach, Yoshi, Rosalina, Daisy, Donkey Kong, Wario, Pauline, Waluigi, King Boo, Shy Guy, Birdo, Toadette, Baby Rosalina, Baby Mario, Koopa Troopa, Baby Peach, Baby Daisy, Baby Luigi, Bowser Jr., and Lakitu. Gonna be honest, I don't really see Lakitu, but the wiki has decided that's what these sprites look like, and the wiki is probably based on group consensus. The other ones I do feel fairly confident in, but in bringing up this roster, we have to talk about a few things immediately. One, as far as things we see in front of us, that's a 24-player race, something we've never seen in Mario Kart. As far as I'm aware, the highest it's ever gone up to is 18, but I think the standard is 12. So 24 is a massive upgrade. I say upgrade, it might make the races worse, frankly. 24 racers sounds unmanageable, but it does sound exciting. We get confirmation of this when looking at this initial picture where we see 24 race start spots. But another thing to consider here is that if there are 24 racer races, we're going to have likely a huge roster for this game. Consider the fact that in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, excluding the different color variants that some characters have, there's 48 playable characters, which is a very good roster. But if these races contain 24 players, that means each race contains half the roster, and if you're not allowed to double up on characters, that's going to be extremely limiting for player choice, which makes me wonder how big this roster is going to be. 60, 80 characters? Honestly, at some point you get diminishing returns. After like the 50 most known characters, you're gonna start running into things like Spike. And look, I love Spike, he's fun and all. Do we need him in a Mario Kart game? What I think this does open the door up to, though, is non-Mario Nintendo characters showing up in more numbers. Consider, if we have 24 characters per race, and we're looking at a roster that wants to at least have a third of the racers be selected at any given time, then we're looking at a total character roster of around 72. And again, once you get past 50, you start running out of well-known Mario characters, but then you could supplement those numbers with non-Mario characters. We already see this in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with characters like Link, Splatoon Kids, Isabelle, and is that all? I'm having a brain fart moment, but I know for a fact we've never gotten Kirby, Captain Falcon, who's a little, edgy to be in a Mario Kart game, but could work, Olimar. All I'm saying is if we have this many racers per race, we're probably going to have a big roster, and the bigger the roster, the more likely I think it is for non-Mario Nintendo characters characters to show up. But looking at player choices, the cars are also interesting here. Looking at the types of cars in front of us, it does seem like we're still going to have the car, bike, ATV split that we see in Mario Kart 8. Judging by the cars we see, this motorcycle, and whatever Bowser's on looking like a quad. But notably, not all the cars have wheels. Look at Rosalina's car, which appears to have tracks and a front sled. To me, this gives a couple possibilities. Either the tire selection is going away and we're just picking cars, which I don't think is a massive deal, or tire selection is going to be way more interesting, including non-tire choices. Frankly, I kind of hope it's the first option. I know some players love having the opportunity to pick their wheel and their car and their glider, but unless it's going to be really visually distinct or really meaningfully different stat-wise, realistically, I think it makes sense just to have more interestingly designed cars, including their tires being different and custom. I'd rather have fun cars like Rosalina's sled car or hovering jet bikes than having to pick the big tire or the small tire, especially if the stat spread is anything like the base game, where realistically like 2 tires are the only ones to pick from. Moving away from characters and karts, we have to talk about this new track. Obviously, we only see one new track here, and we're likely to get at least 16 new courses with this game, as is tradition, 4 cups of new tracks and 4 cups of classic tracks. What is very notable, even though we're only seeing one very small snippet of this track, is there doesn't seem to be a gimmick. No gliding, no water, and no gravity. Traditionally with Mario Kart, every time a new gimmick was added, it carried over to the next game. First it was gliding, then underwater, and then the gravity segments from Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8 including everything previous. Again, we only saw like 30 seconds of one track, so it's very possible that these gimmicks still exist. But I think it would be kind of a nice change of pace if they kind of do away with all of those gimmicks and just give us interesting ground-based tracks. Because at the end of the day, gliding and going underwater and the gravity stuff is cool, but it doesn't meaningfully change the gameplay very much. Oftentimes, the gliding segments is just the time to sit back and go, well, I guess we're relaxing for 10 seconds. The underwater segments is just driving but worse, and the gravity segments literally do nothing to change the gameplay, it just kinda looks cool. Whereas the remixed versions of Mario Kart Tour tracks have shown us that you can do a lot just with ramps on ground-based tracks. Look at how interesting this gameplay is versus just gliding through this area. Looking at what we see on the track itself though, there are some visual design changes. Notably, this boost pad is a lot more vibrant, and it looks almost crystally. At first, I was going to note how this item box looks a lot more fiery, but upon closer inspection, I don't actually think this is an item box. I stabilized the video to get a better look, and in fact, you can see a smiley face on it. I'm gonna be honest, I did some research and I could not for the life of me figure out what to search to find this Mario enemy, but I swear, there is a fire version of a Freezy, basically a little fire guy with a smiley face. I swear it exists, and I think that's what this is. But if that doesn't exist and I'm just crazy, this either is a new enemy or a new item. Because again, I thought it was an item box, but there is a smiley face on this thing. So this tells me it's like a sentient ball of fire, which I guess makes sense for this like desert gas station area. But okay, I haven't addressed it, and we probably should, because it's what most people are talking about. Looking at this game in its entirety, and especially in its character design, the art style for this game is way different. Donkey Kong being the starkest comparison. Some folks don't like it, but I see this as a purposeful shift to the cartoony, to the silly, if you will. I think this is a great omen. More and more as time goes on, people are ready and willing to admit that realism isn't that important in games, but meaningful art style choices is. And interesting art styles is becoming more and more craved by the public, and I think Nintendo is keying into this. Look at Super Mario Wonder. Besides the fact that it's a great Mario game, one of the things that a lot of people were won over by was its charm. It's incredibly charming. Mario is so expressive and all the sound effects are wonderful, but his design is really reminiscent of a modernized version of classic Mario, a much more cartoony style. Gone are the days of trying to look like an adult man and more so just looking like Mario. And the fact that that game was received well, I think is bonus on top. Nintendo might be finally leaning into this fun, cartoony, less serious art style. And I think we might see that in this upcoming Mario Kart. Donkey Kong is a perfect example. Look at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Donkey Kong. Like, yes, sure, this is Donkey Kong, but his proportions are somewhat normalized. He kind of just looks like a gorilla. Whereas looking at the Donkey Kong in this Mario Kart, he's got incredibly massive arms, a silly looking face. He looks like a goofy version of Donkey Kong, and I think that's wonderful. I hope this is an omen that all of this Mario Kart game is going to be taking itself a lot less seriously, leaning into the fun cartoony aspects of Mario, and in a sense, being a lot more charming because of it. It might just be slight redesigns to the characters, but I hope we see this in the entire game. The UI, the tracks, the cars, and of course the characters. But that's pretty much all I can milk out of this 30-second snippet of Mario Kart. What do you think, and what are your hopes for this new Mario Kart? Because I'll be honest, above all else, the thing I want most is Wario Coliseum in a modern game. I don't think we've got it outside of the original Double Dash where we got it. But top of the list is Wario Coliseum, next is non-Mario Nintendo characters and courses, including my guy Kirby, because I'll tell you what, if Kirby is playable in this game, he will be my main. I do not care what his stats are. And finally, and this isn't a wish list, just something we're definitely getting that I cannot wait for, new Mario Kart tracks. Like I said in my kart racing comparison video, I love Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and the fact that it has 96 playable tracks is frankly absurd. But the thing that always irked me is that because it's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we haven't gotten a meaningfully new racetrack from Mario Kart for like 10 years. I want new goddamn courses to play on. And I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to ask. And no, I don't count the Mario Kart Tour courses. They're fun and all, but they just don't feel the same. Anyway, I could talk about Mario Kart for another 10 minutes. Instead of that, now that you know what the Switch 2 actually looks like, why don't you go and check out last week's video where I was taking the leaks we had and trying to figure out the exact dimensions based off of pixel measurements. I think we got pretty close now that we know what the actual console looks like, but you can be the judge of that right now. But until next time, you've been watching Ride Toost. Of all the YouTube channels, it's the second one. Stay toasty, slices.